The Springboks season is finally over, and these are some of my key takeaways from the season. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, what your opinions are of the 2024 season was. If you haven't, please leave this video a like, and if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. Now, this is our last day in the UK. We're actually busy packing up now to head back to South Africa and prepare for December, which is going to be another massive month, and then into the new year. But the UK has been absolutely phenomenal. However, it has taken the toll. As you can hear, I'm a little bit sick, so maybe just bear with me for a little bit. I have 5 points here that I want to sort of talk about and open this line of communication and really see what you guys think as well. So my first key takeaway, and I think it's quite an obvious one from the 2024 season, is depth. Depth. That is what Rasmus and the coaching staff were trying to accomplish in 2024. And it makes sense because we're coming off a World Cup year in 2023 where we ended up winning the Rugby World Cup. And now we're sort of building to the next Rugby World Cup in 2027. So if you kind of look at the 4 years as a funnel, we're currently at the top in 2024, then it gets a bit thinner, 2025, 2026, and then 2027, because Rasmus has played 51 players in a Springbok jersey this season, but we can only take 33 players to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. So I think what Rasmus was trying to do was give as many guys an opportunity in the Springbok camp as he could possibly. Yes, I think there are a couple of names that maybe he missed out. If we rewind to the beginning of the season, a lot of guys were saying that Sonela Nohamba should be included, guys like Sia Masuku. There's a lot of guys that could potentially be included in that Springbok squad, which just again shows the depth within South Africa and how blessed we are as a country and as Rasmus and the coaching staff for the Springboks are, because we have so much depth coming in, so that funnel can be really wide at the top. I mean, 51 players wide, which is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, so SAA wasn't really a thing this year, but what Rasmus essentially did was have the Springboks and an SAA side, because he has more than two teams. He's played more than 2 teams this year, which is almost unheard of, right? So he's been building a lot of depth, and I think as we move closer to the 2027 Rugby World Cup next year, maybe we'll see a little less players used across the year. In 2026, we'll definitely see less players used, and then into that 2027 year, we're gonna see between 33 and 40 players used throughout the year. So I think it is vital to remember that he is sort of working with this funnel. At least what I can tell is that we're going to have this funnel system. A couple of players are going to drop off next year, a couple of players are going to drop off in 2026, and so on and so forth. But this isn't me saying that other guys can't play themselves in to the Springbok side, which makes the Springbok side so competitive, right? Because you've got guys on the wings and maybe some guys we haven't even heard about coming in over the next couple of years into the Springbok side and pushing a couple of the guys out. In terms of this depth, there are obviously a couple of aging players, the likes of a Bongi Mbonambe or a Vincent Koch, and it's going to be interesting to see how Rasmus deals with that of Willie Leroux. It's going to be interesting to see how Rasmus deals with that over the next coming years, because they've clearly been a large part of the squad this year. Are they going to be a little bit phased out next year, or is Rasmus going to back them all the way to the 2027 Rugby World Cup? I mean, we've seen him do it with Faf de Klerk, who's kind of been phased out. Jean Klein was being phased out until there were a lot of injuries in the lock department. So it is going to be interesting to see what Rasmus does over the next couple of years. But the depth that the Springboks have at the moment and the amount of caps that he's given out this year is something truly phenomenal. And for a team with so many superstars, with so many guys who have won back-to-back World Cups, for them to also sort of take it very, very well, right? There's a bigger picture here. The team's working to that 2027 Rugby World Cup, and if you're not playing, then that doesn't really matter, because it's in the best interest of the team. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the depth and that funnel analogy that I used, and sort of who's going to be in the squad next year and into 2026 and 2027. It's going to be a very, very interesting next couple of years as a Springbok supporter. Then my second point is, even when the Springboks are off, they are very, very difficult to beat. I think if we kind of zoom out and look at the season overall, 11 wins out of 13, 3 wins in the Northern Hemisphere. And yes, I'm seeing a lot of guys saying that Scotland, England and Wales maybe aren't where they used to be, but still, travelling away to Murrayfield, Twickenham and Cardiff is something very, very difficult to do. And the Springboks arguably made it look semi-easy. So I think overall, the season has been a massive, massive success because going into this, there was that storyline of the Springboks can't win between Rugby World Cups. I know we still have 3 years, but we're off to a very, very good start with 11 out of 13. And even on the days when the Springboks aren't firing on all cylinders, if you think back to that second Ireland test match in Durban, where we weren't firing on all cylinders, we still only lost by 1 point. When we weren't firing on all cylinders against Argentina in that second or first test match when we played them away, for the first 20 minutes we were firing, but then we kind of let them back into the game and again lost by 1 point. So it's not like the Springboks, when they lose, they're losing heavily, right? They're still very, very difficult to grind down and get through. And I think that's a massive positive because you look at the Scotland and England game over the last couple of weeks, and I also don't think the Springboks were at their best, especially against Scotland, and we still ended up beating them by 17 points. We weren't our best against England, we still ended up beating them by 9 points. So there is a lot still to work on in the Springbok side, and it's actually kind of a scary prospect because I don't think the Springboks this year have been as good as they can be, and they're still getting results against the All Blacks, against Ireland, against Australia, against Scotland and England. So there's a lot of work to still be done for the Springboks, but if we look to the 2027 Rugby World Cup and this group stays together and we keep improving, then we're going to be very, very difficult to beat in that 2027 Rugby World Cup. So yeah, I think we've been a very difficult team to beat this year. We haven't been at our best, but like I say, there's a lot of space for improvement, which makes the Springboks very, very dangerous. Into my third point, and that is the backbone of the team, but there are positions up for grabs, right? This year, if you look at the backbone of the team, it was players like Ox, Malcolm Marx, Bongi Munambe, Eben Etzebeth, Peter-Steph du Toit, Siya Kolisi, Cheslin Colby, Kurt Lawrence, Damien Willemse, and Jesse Creel. But there are still positions up for grabs, and even those guys in those positions have a lot of competition sort of behind them. Again, it's speaking about that depth, how much competition is within the Springboks. But the positions up for grabs that I've sort of looked at is that number 3 jersey, because Frans Malherbe has been injured for this season, and yes, Vincent Koch is there, we have Thomas du Toit, we have Volko Low, but it's still up for grabs. There isn't someone who's cemented that position like an Ox has in that number 1 jersey. So the number 3, we still have to work out a little bit. A big issue is that number 5 jersey, right? Eben is, that number 4 jersey is Eben's. But that number 5 jersey, there's been a couple of guys through it. Think about Ruan Nokia, Salman Murat, Peter-Steph du Toit's played in there, Franco Mostert, Sean Klein was going to play in there. So there's a lot of guys, again, a lot of depth, but a lot of uncertainty of whose jersey that number 5 jersey is, right? Franco Mostert had a very, very good game against Wales, ended up winning man of the match, so he's kind of putting his hand up. But Ruan Nokia had a very good season for the Springboks. I still think Salman Murat is there and thereabouts, but he just isn't up to the standard. You got Archias Snyman, so there's a lot of players to choose from, and we kind of need someone to sort of put their hand up and say, I want to scrum next to Eben Etzebeth, and that's kind of my jersey. So 3, 5, and then 8 in the pack is also up for grabs. Again, we've got all that depth. Jasper Visser, Ulrich Loh, Cameron Hanekom, Quacker Smith. You've even got oaks like Pepsi Buthelezi and Mpilo Gumede waiting in the wings. So it's not a issue of depth, it's just an issue of who is our main guy. Going into the 2023 Rugby World Cup, we knew Dwayne Vermeulen was the number 8 for the Springboks. Yes, Jasper Visser played a couple of games, but Dwayne was the main guy. And I think as we sort of move down that funnel, we're going to start seeing less and less guys in each position, and we're going to get a clearer picture of who is number 1, who's number 2, and who's number 3. Then into the back line, and I don't think there's as many positions up for grabs. I mean, wings and centres are sorted. Cheslin and Kirtley, those are their jerseys. Damien Delende and Jesse Creel, those are their jerseys in the centre pairing. But 9, 10 and 15 is definitely up for grabs. 9 has been a little bit of a tricky position this year because Faf de Klerk's been out. We've seen Grant Williams, we've seen Kobus Reiner, we've seen Warnie van den Berg, we've seen Jaden Hendrickse. So we've seen a lot of guys in that number 9 jersey. No one's really taken it by the scruff of the neck. I think Grant Williams is probably my number 1 at the moment, but we're going to have to see as we sort of move towards that next Rugby World Cup. That number 10 jersey, you can say it is Handré Pollard's, but I mean, there's been so many guys in and out that number 10 jersey this season. Handré Pollard, Manie Leborg, Sasha, Jordan Hendrickse, and I mean, Sasha made a massive case for that number 10 jersey. So we might see Sasha sort of take over that number 10 jersey in the next couple of years and Handré Pollard sort of step back a little bit and play that utility back coming off of the bench. We saw him come on for Damien de Lende against Wales, so I think his next role might be 10 and 12 sort of coming off of the bench. And then that number 15 jersey, I think Apelele Fassi definitely has it at the moment. You've still got Willie Leroux, you've got Damien Willemse, who's going to be coming back from injury soon. You got a lot of guys who can sort of take that number 15 jersey, but again, no one really taking it by the scruff of the neck. So Rassie Erasmus has done a good job with the backbone of the team, but there are a couple of positions that we still need to figure out who's our top dog. My fourth point is that the leadership is strong as ever, right? Siya Kolisi, Eben Etzebeth, Pieter-Steph du Toit, Pollard and Willie. It's a very, very good unit, and we've kind of seen them guide the Springboks through a lot of tight games. And I think they're going to keep developing that. I would like to see them maybe bring in a younger guy, maybe a Damien Willemse or a Sasha if he's very much part of the squad, or maybe even an Ulrich Lowe or someone like that's a little bit younger that can sort of start taking over the reins from these older guys, because looking past the 2027 Rugby World Cup, I don't know how many of them are going to be left. But that's a problem for the future. The leadership team has been absolutely phenomenal this season, and I think they're only going to go from strength to strength. So those are my 4 main points. I kind of want to finish off by just asking you guys the question, what are the expectations for next year, right? We've got 11 out of 13 this season. We played in the Rugby Championship again next year. We're traveling away to New Zealand. Can we win both games away in New Zealand? That is a massive, massive test. But I think what we need to take away from this video is the funnel. And next year, the funnel is going to get a little bit thinner. We're going to see a little bit more of a backbone within the side, maybe a couple of new players coming in, a couple of guys dropping out. So I think it's vital for the guys that are in the squad at the moment to have a good URC Champions Cup and Challenge Cup season sort of in December and within the first 6 months of next year to really claim their spots in that Springbok side. But I think it's a very optimistic view of where the Springboks are at the moment. Sorry. And where we're kind of heading next year. Let me know what you guys expect from the Springboks next year. Let me know what your key takeaways were. Leave them in the comments. Like this video, and as always, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.